Hey everybody, welcome to A Seat at the Table. This is Leadership and Movement. I've got the premier leader of this country, of the Black community, the Black CEOs, the movement, the agitator, and the change maker. I want to thank Marc Morial for all of his commitment to Black people, the education, the transformation of future generations and past generations. Leaders in movement, why should Black people know that we have to be in this movement?
And Munson, let me first of all thank you and congratulate you for 23 years of rolling out. I remember the early days. It was always a joy to be able to connect in the days when I served as mayor of New Orleans. And we're getting to be OGs now, my man. But we're still on the front line,
Yes, sir.
fighting for equity, fighting for justice, and fighting for respect. I'll say this. So leadership should be understood as people who are committed to making a difference for others. Leadership, by definition, is selfless, not selfish. Leadership is about moving an idea, moving people, and really moving the transformation of change. It is an honor for me to lead the National Urban League. The inspiration for me to lead this organization comes from Whitney Young, comes from Vernon Jordan, particularly because as a young person, a teenager reading the pages of Jet and Ebony magazine and Black Enterprise, reading those pages was my connection to the work of Whitney Young, the work of Vernon Jordan, and the impact of the National Urban League, and the work of the Urban League of Greater New Orleans, led by the late Clarence Barney, which I understood in New Orleans as a civil rights and a job training organization. So it's just been, when you have an opportunity to stand on the shoulders of giants, it is not only an honor, but you've got to understand the responsibility that goes along with it. So as far as we are facing 2022, and I want to certainly acknowledge the celebration of the life and the work of Dr. Martin Luther King. I want to celebrate his life and work on this national holiday, which was part of a movement, Munson. I recall participating in a march, I believe it was in 1981, led by, organized by Stevie Wonder, which was designed to put pressure on the Congress and the Reagan administration to pass the Martin Luther King holiday bill, which had been languishing in Congress for, at that point, more than 10 years. It took a movement for Dr. King's birthday to become a national holiday. And this generation of activists, leaders, people, business people need to understand that it is not just a symbolic day. This year, we're joining with Martin Luther King III, the entire civil rights and racial justice and equity community, to say this is not the year for a celebration without legislation on voting rights and democracy, which is now under attack and threatened in this country. So we're saying no celebration without legislation. So while we honor the life of Dr. King, we're not partying, we're not finger popping, we are working in the trench to say to the United States Senate particularly, if you must pass an exception to the filibuster to protect American democracy, you better do it. It's part of your responsibility to do it. And so this King birthday has a special significance because of the threats. We know January 6th, the insurrection, I call it a coup attempt. We understand that in places like Georgia and Texas and 40 plus states, there's been a tsunami of proposals to make it more difficult, to suppress, to thwart the vote. And it's targeted at Black people, brown people, those who may be disabled, senior citizens. It is the act of people who are simply upset that they lost an election fair and square. So now they want to try to change the rules so they can cheat, I call it cheat, in the future. We have got to recognize what is at stake. And so on the King holiday, those who are making statements today, you must, if your statement does not include an affirmation and a commitment to voting rights, your statement is hollow. If your speech or statement or celebration or event does not include a call to action on voting rights, then you are missing the importance of this moment. So the National Urban League, we recognize that without voting rights and democracy, without a seat at the table, our voice on things like education or childcare or economic policy or housing policy or foreign policy on any range of issues means nothing because we're not at the table. Voting rights gives you a chance to be at the table through the election of people who represent you. And this assault on voting rights extends, it would impact local elections for your city council, your county commission, your mayor, your county executive, the 40 states that elect judges. It would impact members of Congress, members of the United States Senate. This suppression, masking as some sort of integrity movement, is as vicious and as heinous an assault on voting rights and democracy than we've seen since the 1950s and the era of the poll tax and the literacy test. So I want to just squarely let everyone know that for this King holiday, join us in saying no celebration without legislation.
You know, we talk, and thank you for that, about the King holiday, but for most who don't know, you've continued to have a movement in the boardroom,
yeah,
and advocating for our community. Why and how do you hold corporate America accountable, and why should our young people hold corporate America accountable to them?
Look, the foundation of the American economy, and the American economy is based on a free enterprise system. And the free enterprise system involves people's ability to create businesses who exist to serve people and also exist to make a profit for those that own it. Black people, by and large, work in the private sector, government sector as well. But you take some of the largest companies in the world, Walmart, AT&T, for example, they employ literally hundreds of thousands of African Americans, or tens of thousands of African Americans. We have to hold corporate America, we have to hold government accountable on the principle of inclusion when it comes to racial justice. And that holding corporate America accountable is not an easy task. Just calling people out is important, but pushing also from the inside. It's an outside, inside effort. It is an effort to pass laws. One of the things we've done over the years, working not alone, but the National Urban League has been a leader in this effort, is bringing together Black and brown organizations to enter into agreements with some companies. Comcast for one, Charter Communications another, T-Mobile is a third company that has a agreement on diversity, equity, and inclusion, where they've made commitments when it comes to the composition of their board, the composition of their employees, the focus of their philanthropy, how they do programming. If you look at Comcast, Sean Combs has the Revolt Network. Magic Johnson had the Aspire Network. There are a number of African-American owned networks, not enough on Comcast's platforms. That's as a result of the agreement. Ditto for Comcast. Ditto for Charter. If you look at the increased spending by these companies with Black-owned businesses, and look, I'm not here to say it's optimal or it's enough, but you see progress. So we have to continue to push. Consistency is the key when you're trying to move huge, mega institutions. And I encourage everyone to ask the question of every corporation that we work for or that we spend money with. What does your board look like? What does your C-suite look like? Are you providing opportunities for our talented young people, whether they're graduates of Morehouse or Spelman or Howard, or graduates of the University of Pennsylvania or LSU or the University of Texas, or whether they're graduates of community colleges, workforce centers? Are you providing an opportunity, a meaningful opportunity for them to work with your company? We got to continue. The Urban League has been front and center in this work. We're going to continue to do this work. There are fits, starts, progress, disappointment, frustration when you do this kind of work, because all of the commitments, sometimes people make commitments and it's noise. Others make commitment and truly lean in to making a difference. This is not painting with a single brush. So I feel that for the African-American movement for racial justice today, when we talk about changing institutions, corporations are an institution. The business sector is an institution. Labor unions are an institution. Higher ed is an institution. The media is an institution. Government is an institution. It is changing those institutions when it comes to racial justice, equity, and inclusion. And it is a long, hard road. We cannot get instantaneously frustrated. I had a young person who protested during the Black Lives Matter movement who told me he went to 5 protests. He spent a lot of time on social media, and he said, but I don't see any change. I said, my brother, let us talk. I said, 5 protests and 6 months on Twitter is a snapshot in time. I said, it took from 1896 to 1954 to overturn the Plessy decision. It took from 1896 to 1964 and 1965 for the promises of the 14th and 15th Amendments and the 13th, 14th, and 15th Amendments, which were enacted after the Civil War, to be fully implemented and executed. And even 50 years later, we are fighting for the integrity of those laws because we've got a Supreme Court that seems to just be hell-bent on eroding the gains that we've made. This is hard work. It requires partnership and allyship. It requires pressure. It requires a range of things, but it is not easy work. In the National Urban League, we do this work. And even as we do this work, we can't impact every company because of our scale and our size, but we try, and we try to make a difference. And we're working on some new things in this area now when it comes to tech job training. We have our eye on the infrastructure bill and to prepare people for construction jobs. We have to get those doors open as this new $1 trillion gets spent over the next 10 years to redo roads, bridges, water systems, and the broadband network in America.
Training. For those who don't know and are really trying to figure out what the next move is, how can they, if you would describe, lean into the Urban League's movement to move our community forward? I want to thank you because we can actually depend on you. But if you would, just share a glimpse of your CEO's movement to serve the community for those who don't know the opportunities that they can tune into at the Urban League.
Great question. So we're both a national organization, the National Urban League, which I lead. We are a network of 92 local Urban League affiliates, Atlanta, Knoxville, Memphis, Chicago, New Orleans, Houston, Dallas, Philadelphia, LA, for example. We have a physical presence in each of those communities with a chief executive officer who leads our efforts in those communities. You can become a member of an Urban League affiliate, or you can inquire about services that we may provide: home buyer education services, housing counseling services, entrepreneurship services. We provide a variety of services depending on the Urban League affiliate. If you want to find out if there's an Urban League affiliate near you, we have a website with a zip code locator on it, or certainly you can do a search as to whether there's an Urban League in your hometown or nearby. We're not in every state. We're not in every community. We're primarily an urban organization, so we're not really in rural areas. We're in a handful of suburban communities, but our work is in the core of the city. So you can become a member. And I would invite those that are under 40, like you and I, under 40 in spirit, to join the National Urban League Young Professionals. We now have a support auxiliary of young professionals. They're the front lines in our advocacy, dynamic, talented young people who are leading, if you will, the cutting edge of the Urban League movement now in the 21st century. So I think, and I encourage people, to get involved. Look, everybody, there's a community of organizations. We are a legacy, historic. We're one of the larger civil rights organizations in the country. I like people to be involved with us, but what I want to encourage everyone is, don't be a spectator. Don't be on the sidelines. Yes, be an activist on social media, but go beyond that. Go beyond that. Get involved in a community base, get involved in an equity organization, get involved in, there are a lot of dynamic places of worship, faith-based, that are doing activism. We all have to be on the front line. 2022, we have midterm elections. There are those who are counting on a low Black voter turnout. There are those who are trying to orchestrate through voter suppression a low Black and brown turnout. There are sinister forces at work, already gerrymandering, right? Racially gerrymandering district lines for the state legislatures across the nation and the Congress across the nation in an effort to wipe out G.K. Butterfield, great member of Congress, former chair of the Congressional Black Caucus, former justice of the North Carolina Supreme Court, is going to retire from Congress because his seat has been eliminated by the North Carolina state legislature. So this is what we are facing. This is the same thing that happened after Plessy. After Plessy, the southern states, many of them held constitutional conventions and put into their constitution and put into their statute books a whole host of separate segregation, poll tax, literacy tests, grandfather clauses. They basically wiped out the 20 to 25 years of progress in the post-Civil War Reconstruction period through these constitutional conventions. The same thing, using states' rights arguments, same thing's happening today. And we need to push back aggressively. But the first thing we need to know is that this effort has a target on our head, on our back, and on our backsides. This is an effort to gut the power we've worked so hard to earn and the progress. And a lot of it is targeted at this coalition of Black, brown, white, indigenous, Asian American, young, old voters that came together to dump Trump and elect Biden in 2020. It was a coalition that came together, massive, significant voter turnout. And this effort is, let's go undercut that coalition. Let's understand it isn't about the candidate. It's about the voters. We have to vote. The more they try, the more there's an effort to stop us from voting, the more determined I am, and we should be, to exercise the franchise and cast our right to vote.
Well, we want to thank you for all you continue to do to stay on the battlefield, in the boardroom, and on the streets. Thank you, Marc Morial, for all that you've done for the community and continue to do at the Urban League and outside the Urban League. For all of us, for a Black man who has watched as you entered this business early and young and continued to serve us, I want to say thank you for continuing the movement and struggle, because clearly by now you could have checked out. I mean, I think it's not an easy road to be a Black man that advocates for a community that may not understand the vision that the Urban League has stood up for us. But we want to thank you and to say it out loud so that you hear it rolling out for your vision for our community and for the children that would not have the training, that would not have home ownership, was so critical and key, and the advocacy at a level that wouldn't have happened if there was no organization like the Urban League.
Well, hey, Munson, thank you for rolling out us to give us a chance to connect with the community. We look forward to, in 2022, strengthening this partnership. Congratulations on what you do. And, you know, you are building an institution. You built an institution that gives us a chance to talk directly to our community. And that has great value. So congratulations on your work and your leadership as well.
Thank you so much. Ladies and gentlemen, Marc Morial, CEO extraordinaire at the Urban League. And we also want to thank you for here at the seat at the table. Thank you.
Thanks. Appreciate you.